Hey everyone, welcome back to Backstage WA. My name is Shannon.
My name is Kaylin, and today we're here with Holden Sheppard, an amazing author of Invisible Boys, which has a new series just about to be released on Stan. So it's a very exclusive, like right before release interview. We're very excited about it. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you both for having me. It's a real pleasure.
No, it's all good.
Nice.
We're so excited to talk about the book and also what we can about the show, keeping it like a little bit hush, but we've both seen all the episodes, binge watched them over like 2 nights in my case. I was like staying up.
I did it in one day.
It's crazy.
One
It's
day.
so
That's what we want. We want
it's
the binge.
good. It hooks
Yeah.
you in. Oh my gosh. And it hits really hard, but we'll talk about that a bit more, I reckon, later
Yeah.
on. But yeah, exciting to be here.
So Holden, you are from Geraldton, like myself.
Yes.
What was that experience writing about your hometown?
Yeah, it's ever since I put the book out, I've had so many people kind of say that they're Geraldton survivors. You know, that they've escaped as well, and they got out. And you know, some of them are like, "I hated that town. Did you hate it as much as me?" And it's really funny because I actually didn't. I have bulk affection for Gero, and I've always loved it. I love going back and visiting my family. So I loved the town, but you know, yeah, it was kind of tough growing up gay there, or frankly being anything. Like if you were. I was like Zeke in Invisible Boys at school. I was, you know, the nerdy kid and I got straight A's and ducks of year 11 and all that kind of stuff. And like you get teased, you know, you get picked on for being the smart kid, let alone the gay kid. So I didn't always have a great time, but I actually loved the town and I loved the people and I loved working there. So writing about it, I just kind of went, I'm going to write about it honestly and show the good parts of Gero and the ugly parts of Gero and just put it all out there. And weirdly, it was really well received. You know, like every Gero person I know has kind of liked the book. So
How much of yourself did you put into Invisible Boys?
yeah, the kind of cool thing with this book is that essentially all 3 of the boys, and 4 if you count Matt, because in the TV series Matt gets a bit more of a role than he does in the book. They're all parts of me. They're all kind of fragments of myself at different stages of growing up, essentially. So the way I thought of it when I wrote the book was that there was, you know, a human body has a mind, a heart, and physical body. So Zeke was the mind, Charlie was the heart, Hammer was the body. And so I kind of split the boys and their narration in the book into those 3 areas to kind of explore the full human experience.
That makes so much sense. And I'm like thinking about, well, that's blown my mind. They're the parts of the body.
Yes.
So I remember that kind of, I've read in a few interviews that you've done about how it's kind of this different parts of yourself. I think it really spoke to how people often say it's like writing what you know. It's like you can get stuck in a very limited kind of bubble of well, have I exhausted my experiences, or like am I repeating myself? Are these 2 similar? But it's such a honestly great example of how you've combined different aspects of your life, personality, and everything, and been able to project it into such different characters, and comes across with unique voices and different stories, but still, again, that central theme. I think was that something that you kind of have learnt over your time writing that you had to work on? Because it seems like that's like the touch of a very skilled writer, not to,
I'm glad it came across as skilled. I feel like when I was writing it, it was so quick and heady that I don't really even remember planning as much as I did just go from the gut. Like there was so much, I wrote the first draft in 2 months. It was just like, poof, and I was really just ready to tell that story. But I think I really wanted to make sure that each boy represented something different, as you say, like they had a different voice. That was really important. They had different voices that were each grappling with different stages of coming out as well. You know, like, so everyone's at different, you know, Charlie's he's nearly there. He's outed very early on. So he's out, you know, Zeke knows he's gay, but he doesn't want to tell anyone because he knows the repercussions. Hammer is so in denial. Like he's just like, well, I'm an alpha, you know, I'm a big tough footy player. How could I possibly be gay? It just doesn't compute for him. So he's really deep in the closet. And so they're at different stages. I wanted to represent that full journey. And I think they're also, as much as I can look at them and say, well, Zeke is maybe the most like me when I was a school kid. Charlie's probably me after I left school and I became a bit more outspoken. And Hammer, I'm not sure. I'm never really fully sure if Hammer is a bit of where I became later, where I became a gym junkie, and that was kind of the more physical side of myself, or if he's wish fulfillment, because, you know, I've played footy really badly and I wish I was good. Like I've always wanted to be
getting
a good
drafted
footy player.
for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, that's
bar.
right out for me. But I was like, wish fulfillment, you know, if I could have had that in Gero, if you were a good footy player, that trumped pretty much everything. And so footy players were gods. And so I remember like really aspiring to, I wish I could be like that. I couldn't play sport for crap, you know, so and I was a geek, right? So like, it was just not an option. But I wished I could be like that. But at the same time, I was like, well, those guys are probably dealing with stuff as well. You know, Hammer is dealing with all kinds of stuff, even though he's seen as the alpha.
Yeah, exactly.
We were chatting earlier before the podcast, and you said the book version of Hammer is so different to the on-screen version of Hammer, and that all has to do with the way that Zach portrays the character. So how do you feel about this different portrayal of Hammer on screen?
Zach just nails it and takes Hammer to a much more sympathetic place. I think if we were forced to watch 10 episodes of Book Hammer, it would be a lot harder to empathize with the guy, because Book Hammer is, apart from his thoughts, which make him a little bit more likable, all his actions and all his words are actually
From
they
the
put
outside.
him in dickhead territory. You know, like he's, you know, we can understand why he's like that because we see inside his head. But if you portrayed that only without any internal monologue, it would be very hard to like the guy. So Zach has just really brought this human quality to Hammer and this vulnerability to him, and I love his portrayal. I think he's so perfectly cast.
That's what I noticed as well. I've watched the series and I've read a fair bit of the book. I don't think I could read the whole thing in the one night between when I bought it yesterday. But I was struck by that as well, and how it's kind of the same essence of character and kind of the same archetype, but it really was brought to such a deep place. All the performances were fantastic. I was so excited to see Pia Miranda. I was like, looking for Ella Brandy was one of my like coming of age movies. Classic. I loved her, and I hated her so much by the end of the series. But I was like, no, Pia. Like, actually, I love her so much. But oh my gosh, yeah. By the end, I was like, it was just great performances all around. It just felt so real. I was like, fabulous. But and then the main boys as well, and the three boys and Matt as well. Well, the character of Matt. It just felt like the relationship that was built, and that's a testament obviously to the writing and also the writing of the show and the acting especially, though. I think really it's like they had a chemistry, you know. And how was that seeing on screen? You kind of this imagined chemistry in your head, and now you get to see it being deepened by people.
Yeah, the chemistry is the wild part of when people ask about, you know, is it surreal to see your book turn into a show? Seeing the actors cast, you know, like when I saw their photos, my reaction was, okay, they're all perfectly cast. But it was when I saw them interact. So I think I went up to Geraldton to see them during the filming, and I got to meet the four main boys. And I met them all. It was really nice. It was cool. Yeah, like, you know, total trip out. They're all really nice guys, and it was a really great experience. And then Aiden came in while I was talking to Zach. So Aiden Calafiore, who plays Zeke. And, you know, so in my head, Zeke and Hammer just look at each other and they said g'day and they had a hug. And my writer brain just flipped. And I went,
it's just them.
Zeke and Hammer just hugged in front of me. Like, and I didn't write it. It's like, it, you know, like it this happened spontaneously. It was such a trip. And so then, watching it all play out, their chemistry is amazing on screen. All four of them. I mean, I can speak at length with any follow-up questions if you want to, because they're just so good, all four of them. Pia, I could geek out about Pia being in this forever.
My queen, she's the OG for me. I love her.
Same. So I'm Italian. Like I'm Sicilian Australian. So Looking for Ella Brandy was such a touchstone for our whole family when we saw that come out, because we would go make the sauce every summer, and that's in the show as well. You've seen that in Zeke's plot line. But we did that every summer. It was the best part of our year. Like me and my cousins, my siblings, we all look forward to sauce making every year. And you saw that portrayed by Pia and the whole story, you know, the whole Looking for Ella Brandy, that whole story. And so to see her in this was like this real full circle.
It's a bit trippy, kind of like, oh my gosh.
And we all love her, right? Like she's so lovable. And then you're like, and now she's a villain.
And I was like, is she going to have her redemption by the end?
No, she did not.
Not in real life, but in the show.
I believe in real life she is absolutely amazing.
The opposite.
But she plays this character as such a good villain.
How much of the process were you involved with? Because it is a Stan original. So how much of the process did they have you in for?
Yeah, so I got to be pretty involved by like writer standards in terms of, you know, when your book gets adapted. Some authors will just kind of go, here, take the baby and do whatever you want to it, and I'll see it at the premiere. I was invited to be involved in the writer's room and to be in the development process, and I said yes to it because I think the book is so personal. I think that's probably the key reason. As much as I've said, you know, yes, it's fiction and, you know, the story's made up, the characters are made up, but the emotional truth behind it is really drawn, all four boys, their emotional truth is drawn from me growing up gay in Geraldton. Like, I've given it to each of the four of them, but that comes from me. So when it came to adaptation, I was like, I want to be in the room. I want to be able to kind of speak up if I need to speak up and that kind of thing. And, you know, there were a couple of times where I did speak, and I'm really glad I did, because it kind of just preserved a couple of things that were important to me. But yeah, it was a really cool experience. So I got to be in the writer's room. The writer's room was all LGBT. The ethos of the book was like all killer, no filler gay content. Like I was like, there's no straight plot lines. You know, like when you see the show, it's kind of the same. Yeah, there's no kind of, I mean, there's a few girlfriends and things here, but it wasn't like we watch things from their point of view. It was like we see it all from the gay characters' points of view. And so same thing here. You know, the gay writers' room, virtual mostly, because we did a lot of it during COVID, actually. Yeah. So a lot of it was Zoom. But to have, you know, Alan Clark, Enoch Malingi, Declan Green, and Nicholas Verso, the director, and myself kind of sit there and really tease it out. And you end up sitting there and talking about parts of your own, like, coming out or things that you went through at school. And it all kind of forms this big melting pot that you draw from for the show. So it is very authentic in that way.
Yeah, coming from the room itself being full of LGBTQ plus people, and now you guys are putting on this show for a wider audience, how do you think people in the community are gonna receive this show?
I am waiting to find out, because there are some things where people who have read the book and seen the trailer are like, awesome, because they know the book and they know what's coming and they know how graphic it's going to be and how it doesn't shy away, it doesn't pan away. You know, the camera doesn't pan away from confronting scenes.
It's kind of a great part of it. I thought you just look there, not to be crass, but you just looked and you're like, come. I was just like, awesome. I was like, you know what I mean? I was just like, oh, surprise. But then you kind of just but I thought that was cool. It just felt, I just knocked my mic over there. I thought it was just really, big point about what you say about the camera doesn't pan away. It doesn't kind of touch on the nitty gritty and all the parts of these people. It like really gets in there. And I think that's really unique that we haven't seen a lot of.
I think that's what we wanted to do. Like the book does that essentially. And so for the series of a Holden Sheppard book to have cum shots, you know,
you're gonna have at least 5.
I
you know,
feel
great.
Like you might be in the Guinness Book of World Records for most cum shots on screen.
I want to know whose job was it to like spray. I want that to be my next art department.
We need to
job.
speak to the production designer.
I think there's a whole process.
How do you make it? So I think
there's equipment involved. I'm not entirely sure. But I'm very proud if that's the world record that we take out,
I think it might.
I'll be very proud of that.
I genuinely think it might. So Invisible Boys deals with themes of identity, masculinity, queerness and mental health. How important was it for you to see these themes represented authentically on the screen?
Yeah, I think I wanted to make sure I went with a creative team that safeguarded all of those themes and really wanted to show them with authenticity, which is why, you know, we did the writer's room and we made sure it was LGBT. I'm really grateful as well. I haven't mentioned her yet, but Tanya Chambers, the producer.
I was going to mention her because Tanya Chambers is a friend of the show.
Podcast.
She's been on your show, right?
Yes. Twice.
She has.
She's
yes. She's a powerhouse.
Tanya.
You know, Tanya's.
We love Tanya.
Yeah, she's just so good. And but she backed it in from the start, where possibly other producers might have been like, I don't know, this is edgy, or tone this bit down. She's always been
such a great advocate for for women, for queer people, for trying new projects that you wouldn't normally get, especially in WA being made. She's really great.
She really is, and she did all that. She backed us in completely, and she thought, you know, this is a beautiful project and let's support it. So I'm very grateful to her for making sure that all those themes were covered, and I think the writing, you know, made sure that those themes were safeguarded in a way that wouldn't go wildly off field from what I wrote, you know.
In terms of collaborating with these creatives in a different medium, sharing that story together, how important is it to have a good relationship? And has the relationship you formed with the creators like Tanya, Nicholas, and all the actors, everyone involved, the writer's room, shaped your kind of expectation and understanding of what it might be like in the future if you do any more adaptations?
Yeah, it's been a great learning curve for me, because as a novelist, when I write one of these, I'm in a room by myself. I get to do everything I want and I make all the decisions. And TV and screenwriting is absolutely not like that. You have to kind of come to the table and know that your opinion is one of 5 or 6, and you might get your opinion across the line, but it also might get challenged and the room might not feel in favor of it and it might not make it. So when you're the author of the source work, that's like quite a challenging thing to kind of relinquish a little bit of control and just let that happen. But I think the important thing for me learning kind of through this process was that you know, when I am having some conversations at the moment about adaptations for my other books. And so when I'm having those conversations, I know what's important to me now, and I can kind of say, look, you know, this relationship has to be important. I have to be valued. I have to be heard. And if someone doesn't want to, you know, value me, and they kind of come in, you know, I'm talking about one of these future projects, but, you know, if someone kind of comes in and is, you know, I'm the producer, you'll do what I say, and we're going to ruin your book or whatever. I don't want to be in that partnership. You know, I'm not
autonomy to.
I think it's really important to share power when you're coming in as the author of the source work, but you also don't want someone who's going to you don't want someone who's going to like shut you out altogether. So when I'm speaking to other producers and other people more broadly than these ones that we've worked with already, you know, when you're speaking to other producers, you're kind of making sure that like, is this going to be a relationship where I know I'm going to be heard? And you know, me personally, you know, I feel like I came from nothing. Yeah, so I'm a Spalding boy, and I started writing in Spalding when I was 7. So the way I look at it is that I came from nothing and I had nothing. So if someone kind of says we're going to, you know, if someone walks in tomorrow and says we're going to take King of Dirt and we're going to produce it into this thing, give us all your money, but also we're going to tell you you have no say in whatever, I'll say no. I don't want to work with you. I actually don't want to work with people who might be like that, because I don't need it in my life. Like I'm not so horny for fame and success that I'm willing to be trampled on ever. Yeah. So to me, this taught me that I like collaboration. I want to work with people who are respectful, and that's going to be really important with me going forward.
Definitely. Speaking of expert segue into this next topic, I was going to say you're currently working on as well a sequel of sorts and aimed more at adults of Invisible Boys called Dead Straight. Not many details out about it yet because I understand it's still in the process. Yes. But do you see an adaptation of Dead Straight coming into fruition one day?
I hope so. I hope so, because Invisible Boys was made. And so, I mean, it's definitely too early for me to kind of say, you know, will Stan greenlight a season 2 of Invisible Boys? Like, I don't know. Yeah. It's too early to have that question. We're just kind of excited to promote this because it's, you know, not out yet. So that's really exciting. I hope that the sequel will get some adaptation interest as well. The really cool thing as well is that I've just changed the title. Dead Straight was the working title.
I was going to say,
I thought so, because I read a different title on your website.
I've put a whole bunch of things out,
keeping us guessing.
I'm trying to keep it like hush hush until we're ready to actually kind of hit the ground and say, here's what it is.
For sure.
The reason I'm so cautious now, so my 3rd book, King of Dirt, which is just on the table there, when it got the publishing contract with Pantera Press last year, it was called Two Kings. Okay. And so it went out as Two Kings. And then a few months later, we did the cover, and, you know, it said Two Kings, and it had an image of one guy, and all the kind of like focus group feedback.
Like, where's the other guy?
Literally everyone was like, where's the other king? Everyone said, where's the other king? And it was distracting from, we're trying to sell a book. Yeah. Everyone was like, well, where's the other king? So we changed it. And so it's now King of Dirt, and there's only one king on the cover. Yeah. So I'm cautious about the sequel to kind of say too much around the title, because it will change probably. But it's super exciting. So it revisits the boys a little while after the end of this book, which ends kind of similar to the series. So it ends with that. Well, I won't say how it ends on this interview for spoilers, but it ends in a similar way, and it lends itself to like wanting to know, okay, well, what happens next and where does it all go? So the sequel will answer those questions, and it comes up with a bit of a new plot as well. So
I'm excited to just see if they ever made it on that tiny little scooter all the way from Geraldton. They were like, we're on a journey. And I'm like, 2 hours into this drive, you guys are going to be like, I wish we didn't do this. They ran out of petrol.
No. I know.
Like,
moped speeds are not built.
It's
not built for the Brand Highway.
No, not built for the
I
Brand
appreciated
Highway.
the ambition, but I was like, it's a beautiful moment. But I was like, thinking practically, you guys are going to need to fuel up at some point. But
there's going to be a big line of cars waiting
just
to overtake.
Just a line, and you're just like, going on. You get honks at you. People just like throwing stuff out of the cars, probably.
Me and my ex got abused once on Brand Highway because he used to ride a moped.
Oh, no,
oh my God, no. Jake is the moped.
Yeah, and there was a massive truck behind us, and he was like coming close as he can to us to scare us. So they're not making it that far on Brand Highway.
Before they turn back.
It's going to be a gnarly ride, that's for sure.
It's a gnarly ride. That's just the whole journey. It could be a book in itself.
Yeah.
Just getting stranded mid-highway. Oh my gosh.
Speaking of Brand Highway, going back to Geraldton, as somebody from Geraldton watching this series, it was so amazing to be like, don't go driving. Hungry Jacks. The foreshore, like all this stuff. So how did you feel as a Geraldton? You wrote the book. It's on TV. It's going to be on TV soon. And it's like highlighting our hometown. How do you feel?
I'm so pumped for it. Like Gero was buzzing when it was in production and I went up there and everyone was just like, it's so cool because we're Gero people. Like I'm a Gero person. We don't get this in Gero. Like it doesn't happen. And so everyone was pumped. I know, to me, the cool thing was like it employed something like 300 and something people, like cast and crew, and most of them local in WA. And so all these people went up to Geraldton and spent their money and it gave the economy this really nice boost. And so I'm really, I was happy that happened for Gero. And then more broadly, Gero looks incredible on screen. Like it's so beautiful.
Oh,
like it just, there's so many, drone shots, right? Like there's so many shots where you're like, this is breathtakingly beautiful. And we take it for granted because it's
when I saw that Hungry Jack sign light up, I was like,
and there's those scenes as well.
I was like, it was a beautiful set. No,
but you just spent like I've spent so many of my teenage years like being just kind of trash, walking outside Northbridge and walking down the foreshore and stuff.
And you said Northbridge, but you
I meant Northgate.
Yeah, Northgate. I was just.
I've been in the city too long.
Northgate.
Yeah, no, but Northgate, like we just hung out at Northgate and like. And you remember when Target had those like mixed lolly cups?
Yes.
And so we just like you'd get those and then just like walk around
a parking
and
lot,
go to Sanity.
Yeah,
look at CDs.
You were the coolest person in school. We'd be like, hey, we're going to town this weekend, grab a Target lolly cup, walk around town, go to Sanity, go to all the little shops and go home.
Yeah, there wasn't much else to do. Yeah, if you were brave, you'd walk from there all the way to Marine Terrace and whatever.
No, it was for me Northgate to Stirling.
Northgate to Stirling's, there's 2 shopping centres in Jura, so those are the 2. The cool thing as well though, like so when I was a teenager in Geraldton, we didn't have the foreshore at all, right? It was like a railway. It was a train track.
That's quite new though. That whole area that they filmed at, that's quite new. I think even after I moved, that was like.
Okay, so fun fact, which I'm really geeky about, and I'm going to say it anyway. And so when I used to work as a labourer with my dad. He's an earth mover. We laid the water main, like the water pipe, to the foreshore to grow all the grass at the foreshore. So that was us in like in 2000, I want to say 2006, 2007, 2008. We laid all that. So when I look at it all, I was like, oh, that grass grew because of that pipe that I laid. Like I got so, like when you, if you know any tradies and they walk past a house and they're like, I built that house. Yeah. That's how I felt. I was like, oh, that's that pipe we put in.
I feel like there's a bit of a complexity as well between Matt and Charlie's relationship. There's quite a bit of a power play with the age gap. And I like that they didn't and you didn't shy away from showing like the bad sides of the power play. Like he is a teenager and this is a grown adult
with responsibilities. He's got the farm.
And it shows how like that friction is there as well. Like this is a kid who like when I was 16, love was a different image in my head to who I am now at 29. So I feel like I love the fact that you did not shy away from being like, maybe this isn't an appropriate relationship in the end.
Well, and you know what? Like, I think that's part of why the book resonates with a lot of people, but especially with gay men, because a lot of us stumble into all kinds of crap that we shouldn't be stumbling into when we're like, when we're 18 or, like when we're too young to really know better, but we're mature enough that we go looking for it. And so a lot of guys, a lot of readers relate to Charlie and Zeke, like Zeke finding his webcam self. And Hammer in the book has a moment as well, which is not in the series. But, when we're growing up, we do stumble into all kinds of things that are not safe necessarily even, and you kind of like, you look at it and you're like, hey, well, I went there willingly, so I guess I can't blame anyone. But also, that was not the best situation to put myself in. So we kind of wanted to show those moments as well. If it starts a conversation, then fine. I'm always cautious that I don't want young men to be shamed for doing stuff like that. Like I don't want Charlie or the Charlies out there to be shamed for that. But it's important that we kind of show it as well. Yeah.
And going back to Geraldton again, there's quite a few writers that have come out of Geraldton. What's the award in Geraldton that you get? It's based on one writer.
That's right. Yeah, there's a Randolph Stowe Young Writers Award. I got second place in that when I was in year 12 and I was really upset.
Oh no, look at you now. Jacked author. There you go. All the boxes
jacked
ticked.
Author. That's the main thing, which I don't think we've made a reference to so far. So
there's a reason. I wasn't just being like, you're so jacked, by the way. Like there's context. We're not harassing. This is an in context comment. No, I promise.
So Randolph Stowe, a very celebrated author from Geraldton, and even more like modern. There's people like Michael Trent, for example, who is Midwest any other boy, but like Geraldton has lived in
Wow,
Geraldton
we're
and stuff.
really like name dropping all these local towns.
He writes great thrillers. They've made good TV series and movies. Whoever I need to tell, get onto that. But there's people, Charmaine Paper Talk Green, who's based in Geraldton. There's so many great writers. I think we punch above our weight for a regional town.
Sure.
No, for real. There's a lot of great talent that comes out of Geraldton.
And
we have one right here.
Right here.
Just going to say, I feel like I did okay.
That was going to be another little question I had. I was like, you could pick one, we'll say specifically maybe coming out of WA novel, even better if it's coming out of Geraldton, one novel that you would love to see in a screen adaptation.
Oh, okay. Do you know what? I'm going to go with Wild Dogs by Michael Trant, who's the guy I just mentioned. He's a great bloke as well, which is why I'm so happy to advocate for that. But it would be like a really cool thriller. Like it's a bit of a crime thriller kind of vibe, but it's outback. And I'm like, there's no reason why you couldn't make it like in the Midwest. Like that would look really sick. So I would make that.
Awesome stuff. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
The
Wild
royalties
Dogs.
will be coming this way when Wild Dogs
I want him
gets
to give
made.
me 10% at least.
Give 10% at least just for the
Just
promo.
for the shout out.
Just for the promo, exactly.
What do you think this series coming out and your book now and you're on a book tour again, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah.
If you want to show
What
off
do you-
the new
I will.
brand new Invisible Boys cover release with the show.
Here is the I'll show
Very
it off everywhere.
stunning.
Cameras
Here
over
we are.
Looking at
there.
the very
Camera.
beautiful
Hi.
front
There is
image
the
there.
Yeah, so
beautiful
what
new
do you
Invisible
think
Boys.
this would mean for local storytelling and queer representation in Australian media?
I just hope that what the moment that Invisible Boys has, I hope that boosts everyone else. That's what you really want. You want this to lift everyone else up and show everyone that there's like a real market for Aussie stories, WA stories, Gero stories, gay stories, young men's stories that talk about mental health. Like you want to show that can work. And so hopefully then people see that this is viable, that you can publish more of this and people will buy it. You can make more adaptations and people will watch it. That's what I would hope comes out of this. So, and yes, beautiful, beautiful cover. Should be cropping up in bookstores all across Australia and New Zealand as we speak. Excellent.
Great.
So I'm glad it's cropping up all over the place.
Are
at
there
the
any
moment.
specific places that you're hitting in Perth, or are you going in kind of national for the tour?
I'm doing two. So basically what I'm doing is initially for this book, I'm doing just 3 launch events. So I'm doing one in Sydney, 20th Feb. And then I'm coming back to Perth to do a launch at Fremantle Library towards the end of Feb. And then Geraldton, I'm going home.
Oh, lovely.
So that'll be really fun.
That'll be awesome.
That's we only put it up a couple of days ago. It's nearly sold out.
That's incredible.
So that is 28th of Feb to celebrate with the hometown. And then I'm hiding in a cave for a few months.
Fair.
And then King of Dirt comes out in 3rd of June. And so I'm going on a full national tour. So
Intense.
I know everyone's asking, come to Melbourne, come to Brisbane.
Yeah,
I'm going to hit
intense.
everywhere for that tour. We can celebrate King of Dirt and Invisible Boys at the same time. So I'll
amazing.
be going all over the country. Yeah.
How did you feel when you found out that Invisible Boys was going to be made into a TV adaptation? Like, what was the emotions there?
To be honest, you get told as an author so many times that when something gets optioned, like everyone in the industry, and this is probably a good thing. I'm not blaming anyone for this, but everyone in the industry kind of goes like, it's really rare that anything gets optioned, and it's even rarer that anything goes into development, and it's even rarer that it will actually get made. So just keep your expectations in check. And so I really did that, and I was like, cool, I'm not going to believe this until like the money hits my account, and it starts shooting and it becomes real. And so I just didn't I just kind of was like, yeah, okay, this is exciting. And then when it actually hit and, we had actors and stuff, I was so pumped, I let myself feel kind of 3 or 4 years worth of excitement at once, because I was like, oh, it's real now. I don't have to keep hoping that. I think I felt that if I celebrated too soon, it might jinx it.
Yeah, like the other shoe's going to drop and you'll be like, oh no.
Yeah.
What's
And then everyone will be
happened
like, see, we told you, don't celebrate too soon. So yeah, once it happened, I was like it was at the point of like they'd been cast and I could see the actors and I was like, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
Watching them on screen is like, some of them, they're depicting scenes almost from my childhood.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of watching it like, my life is playing out on a screen and everyone's
be
going to
so
see it.
surreal.
Like, this is so bizarre.
Do you feel a bit vulnerable by that?
Definitely some of, there's a big part of me and Zeke and Matt. Zeke when I was at high school, Matt in the years after I left high school. And so watching them was kind of, it just felt like I was watching me. Like it was really out of body kind of experience. So There's a huge vulnerability with it. The great part, which I've always leaned on for the book as well, is that I don't have to tell people which parts are real and which parts are fiction. So I'm just like, some parts are real and I relate to it. Some parts are fiction and I'm not telling you which is which. So it's a good little screen.
And I feel like all 4 of the main boys are such incredible actors that you did have your self put into good hands, I would say. And I think 4 breakout stars are about to emerge from the series.
I think so too. If you look at any one of the 4, so Joseph, Aiden, Zach, Joe, just all of them are stellar. And you're like, I just feel privileged to have played a part in their career, that their careers crossed over with mine briefly in this form. I'm like, great, because you're all so talented. And I hope they just go on to bigger and bigger things. I think they all will. I think they're all going to have really great careers. And I'm so I've only met them once, but I feel kind of proud of them. And I'm like, thank you. You did my characters justice. All 4 of you did. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
So Hammer is First Nations.
Yes.
And a very big part of his story is being First Nations, what it means to go into spaces like the AFL.
Yeah.
And his mum even warns him that people are going to be after him because he is First Nations. How important was this story and how carefully was it constructed with the team?
Yeah, so it was really important that if we were going there with this story, that we had to make sure that First Nations writers were involved in, not even just involved in telling a story, but driving it.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't coming from anyone from outside that space kind of going, here's what we think should be the narrative. Because as gay men, we know how that feels. You know, when straight people are telling the gay man narrative, it's like, okay, that's nice, but you're not quite getting it. And so we made sure we did the same here. So Alan and Enoch are both First Nations, and they're in the writer's room, and they wrote those episodes. Alan, I think specifically, I think he wrote episode 3 and 7. And 7 is a real powerhouse. So 7, I think it's titled Country.
Yeah. And
7 is an amazing episode. Hammer really gets some emotional space, but also there's a really, my husband and I kind of turn to each other when Carla and Doris, the mum and the auntie have their kind of clash. And you're like, far out, that was good TV. It's just such a good moment. And it's like, it's good because the actors played it from a place of authenticity. The writer wrote it from a place of authenticity. So you can actually just celebrate it for being like, this is real. This came from a real place. And I'm very proud of the show doing that.
They were also 2 fantastic actors in the series. I felt like the whole Hammer's dynamic with the family, but then of course with his auntie Doris, it was just felt added so much depth to his character. But then they really felt like they have real beef right now. I was like, they're real sisters. They were incredibly underrated. I just
yeah, that's why I think that moment in that episode,
that was a really a key moment, definitely.
Yeah, I think it just hits you and you're like, I'm watching a full big drama here. This is huge. I loved it. So I thought it was really well done.
Yeah. Also, want to give a shout out to young Hammer, Nathaniel Gregory, who is one of my friends, Fallon Gregory's son. He did amazing on this show, and he really brought to life young Hammer. So, hi, Nathaniel.
Nathaniel.
Hey, well done.
Yeah.
He's a star.
He is a star.
Yeah, no, he does so well as young Hammer for the book jacket. Yeah,
stunning. Oh, good. There's one more kind of question I had as we're kind of summing up, and this is from a previous interview that you've done. I can't find the source, can't remember it right now, but you sort of said you didn't have as much confidence writing before working on Invisible Boys, and you kind of felt like that experience was writing yourself into existence.
Yes.
And I think that really struck me as a quote. I mean, obviously because you put so much of yourself into the book and the characters, but it also speaks, I think, to the power of writing. And I do a bit of writing as well, and kind of, again, working on that, putting myself into it kind of thing. But can you speak kind of to the power that writing has for you and in your life?
Yeah, it is transformative when you write from a place of vulnerability and heart. I came to Invisible Boys with a really different approach to the previous books that I'd written. So previously I was writing kind of mainstream commercial fantasy action adventure stuff, right? No heart, no real emotion, no vulnerability. And so when I came to Invisible Boys and I did that, I let myself be seen in a way that I had not done previously. And it kind of sounds a bit, I'm going to say ridiculous to say what I'm about to say, but I never used to talk about being gay. I never used to talk about my mental health. I never used to talk about anything I had dealt with, trauma, none of it, because I was just focused on surviving. I was Zeke, and I I went on to uni. I did well at uni, you know, achieve, get a good job, like keep achieving, be normal. And then when I wrote this, it was actually permission to like, okay, actually show all the messy shit that's going on in your head and everything you felt. And so I stopped being the perfectionistic persona, the good Catholic boy or whatever I was trying to be, even though I was out. I was openly gay, but I didn't talk about it, right? It was like, shh. And so writing it just, it was writing myself into existence in a way that it allowed me to become myself more. I started to go to the gym and became a gym junkie. I started playing footy socially and actually having fun. You know, I didn't have to be good at footy. I realized I could just play it because I enjoyed it. It changed who I was fundamentally because I started to do things that I wanted instead of what everyone else wanted me to do. And so I feel that for an individual creator, for you as a writer, for me as a writer, for any of us as artists, expression is transformative because it helps us kind of hijack ourselves, you know, from control of the rest of the world and puts ourselves back in the driver's seat of like, this is who I am. This is what I want to be about. And that was powerful for me. And I know the story's done that for a lot of people. A lot of people read it and feel like, I'm going to take charge. I'm going to be like Charlie, or I'm going to be like Zeke and stand up to someone, or, you know, like they feel that. I think there's a power to art.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you
fantastic.
so much.
It's been amazing.
Thank you. I've loved having you on here so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really had a really great time.
I literally messaged like 5 people being like, get me in touch with Holden.
No, it's so good.
And then I was like, I'll just comment on his stuff.
Yes. Just jump in slide in the DMs.
That's I'm like, come back whenever you, like when King of Dirt's coming out, any other things coming out, absolutely come back. I would love to come back about it.
I would happily come back here.
Oh, lovely. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
You're
legends.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome.
Thank you for watching this episode.
Thank you.
We would like to shout out our sponsors, Limitless Studios and The Backlot and Ian Hale. So thank you so much for continuing to support us.
Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.